everybody's wondering what happened. There's a lot of programs that would take that. And that just speaks to the level that Sean Miller's brought this program to and what they expect and what they want to break through to that we talked about a few minutes ago. They want a Final Four. They seemingly have the roster every year. Is this the year that they're going to do it? I think because of the expectations not being as high this year, I think that this is the year that they do it. I think there's been so much pressure on Sean Miller and his teams the last few years to get there. It's a little bit less this year, I feel like, and maybe that helps them.
That's kind of the environment in which Oregon has thrived in this conference the last few years. Exactly. Now they're at the top of the heap, and Arizona is the pursuer, to your point about thriving in that role. Let's take a look at the red and blue rosters for this 2016-17 season. Parker Jackson Cartwright and Kobe Simmons both figure to see time at the one this year, with someone like Kadeem Allen moving off ball perhaps, but keep an eye on 10 blue. Lauri Markkanen. Don thinks he has an NBA lottery pick in his future.
Well, he just looks different. He's all of 7 feet. And for a 19-year-old, and see if we can get a close-up when the game starts, 19-year-old bodies don't look like this. And you put that together with the fact that we were at their practice today, and I didn't see him miss from behind the three-point line. That tells me that he's probably going to be a pretty good player. But as usual, Arizona has most of the bases covered. They have size. They have good guard play. They have athleticism. You know they're going to be good defensively. You talked about during the dunk contest the loss of Tarczewski and what that does for this team. I think Ristic has a bigger role, but when you add Markkanen in there and his ability and his skill set, I think they're going to be different. And not to take anything away from Caleb, I think a little bit better offensively, which may be the difference in them breaking through this year. You know they're going to be good defensively, but if they can be incrementally better offensively, that'll help this Arizona team.
Look at Alonzo Trier, who returns for his sophomore season after Pac-12 All-Freshman Team honors, despite missing 7 games during conference play. Parker Jackson Cartwright. I'm not sure I've ever seen a player at the college level turn around a shooting season the way he went from non-conference to league last year.
Hey, one of the biggest things for this Arizona team this year we haven't even talked about yet. Ray Smith, coming off ACL surgery, hurt himself about a week after this game last year, but he's back fully healthy and ready to go. He's a huge addition for Arizona this year.
He's at the far side wing for the blue team. Here's Markkanen's first touch, backing down Pinder.
We didn't hear about the post game. We heard about the skill level on the perimeter.
Last year's guards, Kadeem Allen and Parker Jackson Cartwright, going at it early. A tie-up, and it goes over to the red team on possession.
Well, again, a lot of jitters, a lot of anxiety, not anxiety, but anxiousness because of being in front of this sellout crowd. How long does it take for guys to settle down and settle into the game?
Alkin sends it to the top. Trier off a high screen. 14 left on the shot clock. Here's Rawle Alkins rolling Ristic, and we'll see him on the floor a little bit next to Markkanen, even though they're on opposing teams tonight.
Always had good hands and good feet, about asserting himself, playing with a higher motor. But with Tarczewski gone, Ristic is going to get, I would assume, a lot more paint touches and tries to score.
Off the Simmons miss, PJC pushing to Trier and one.
Talked to the coaching staff this week, and the first guy they talked about was Parker Jackson Cartwright after Kadeem Allen. Kadeem Allen's leadership, but the improvement that PJC made this summer. Didn't play anywhere, didn't play in any international, stayed here and worked. His body's better, he looks stronger, and a lot of the time what happens when you get stronger is you get more confident. And they see it. It's only been 8 practices for Arizona, but they see his confidence level has risen. They think he's going to have a really good year.
Trier capping it at the free throw line, where he shot 79% to lead all qualifying freshmen in the conference last year. And here's Smith. And for him, more than anyone, those kind of jitters, that rust, is going to be really important for this game and the exhibition contest, because when they see Michigan State, it will have been nearly 1,000 days since his last competitive basketball game.
And practice doesn't do it, right, JB? I mean, you can practice all you want, but it's being in this environment right now with a crowd in front of you and what that brings. So you're exactly right. The exhibition season is probably more important for Ray Smith than anybody else.
There's that shooting touch you talked about from Markkanen. The odds may have been stacked against him in terms of a dunk contest, but if they had a 3-point shooting contest, he might have been a favorite. Pinder tried to throw down. Comanche challenging him at the rim cleanly. Kobe Simmons will push.
Well, what does it do? You mentioned that Ristic and Markkanen might play together. It opens up the paint for Ristic. If you got to get out to Markkanen, you can't help off him, you can't hedge off him. It gives Ristic room to operate down there, or vice versa.
Smith could not find an option off the dribble, so he pulled the string.
When we came here for this red-blue game last year, and I saw him for the first time, the first thing that came to my mind was pro. You know, the measurables of a NBA small forward. He could shoot. You love the athleticism. Unfortunately, hurt his knee. But to me, and watching him move today and watching him move right now, it looks like he hasn't missed a beat other than some time.
Ristic with the catch from Trier. You know, Damon Stoudemire chimed in on Twitter that he played with Derek Anderson, who had 3 ACL tears, and he said he never lost his athletic ability. So he just shouted out to Ray, "You're going to be just fine."
Well, we hope so, because he has a lot of ability and a bright future ahead of him. Now, here he is, and he can be that behind-the-line guy, but also has got the mid-range game. He's athletic, but he can shoot. And not always can you say that about players at this level.
Parker Jackson Cartwright looking to turn the corner, spots Alkins, too strong with his 3-point attempts. Kadeem Allen on the weak side board. Simmons calling for it in transition. Here's Smith again. The red team will run with Alkins stepping through the lane and has the strength to finish.
Has never lifted a weight, which is shocking. And he's got a shirt on so you can't see, but today at shoot-around he just had a jersey on. I mean, for never having lifted a weight and being a freshman in college, strength is an understatement. And you see in transition right there, defenders just fall off him or bounce off him, able to finish that play.
This is the 3-point try, and it's pulled down by Markkanen, the Finnish national teamer. Simmons off his high screen. Play a couple of 12-minute halves in this red-blue game. This is what Markkanen is looking from the college basketball experience, from coming to the United States, the physicality in the post in the Pac-12. He did not see in FIBA.
No, and he's going to get it, but again, and you were already here when I walked into practice today, it's shocking what his body looks like for a 19-year-old. And I know I'm talking about all these guys' bodies, but maybe it's just the day and age of college basketball. But Markkanen and Alkins both.
Who's that remind you of?
That right there? A lot of guys. Anyone in particular?
No, last year's Player of the Year, Jakob Poeltl, had a lot of plays like that.
That's right.
He's got more range than Poeltl did shooting, however.
I haven't seen enough of Markkanen live to compare the two, but I will say Poeltl's feet and hands are off the charts, and I'm not sure that's the case with Markkanen. I know Markkanen's probably more skilled out on the perimeter and a better perimeter shooter, but Poeltl was special down in the paint.
And we think of Kadeem Allen as the stocky guard here at Arizona. There's a situation where he just fouled Rawle Alkins, and the difference in size between the two of them is striking. It's more than 2 inches in Alkins' favor, to kind of put that in perspective from what we saw last year.
You and I have done enough games together, JB. I like big guards, and Alkins is a big guard. I think he'll play some small forward, even though a lot of teams now don't even number their guys anymore. It doesn't matter what you call them, but for our purposes, he could match up against other small forwards.
Comanche running the floor, hits the perimeter with Smith. And they also have someone like Parker Jackson Cartwright here who can get underneath you as a smaller guard defensively.
Well, like I said off the top, this roster's got a lot of flexibility, a lot of versatility.
Elbow pull-up comes up short. Pinder clears and pushes. I think the work that Parker Jackson Cartwright and Sean Miller did together last season was one of the underreported storylines, because his confidence was really low in November, December, and he was a contributor in Pac-12 play. Allen jumping through and finishing with the rights.
Well, unfortunately, Arizona didn't have a ton of perimeter shooting last year. They had Gabe York, who was their best three-point shooter, and shot the most threes, but they needed PJC to come on.
And Trier as well, who misses there. Ristic on the offensive boards.
You beat me to the punch. Trier missed 7 games.
Day.
Red with a bucket lead over blue. 7:02 to go in our first half. Saturday, it's a football doubleheader on Pac-12 Network. First at 1, Utah and Oregon State in Corvallis, where some weather is expected, followed by ASU at CU. That's at 5. Coverage begins tomorrow at noon on Pac-12 Network with our pregame show you can watch on your Pac-12 Now app, as always. And here in Tucson, it's USC and U of A, and Don couldn't even get a flight into Tucson from Los Angeles because of that matchup.
Had to drive in from Phoenix and driving right back out. Should be a good game tomorrow, though.
It's also Parents and Family Weekend, so a great contingent in town for this red-blue weekend, which Sean Miller says is the biggest for him since he's arrived at Arizona in terms of those peripherals, but also recruiting, of course.
Recruiting, big recruiting weekend every year. This weekend of the red-blue scrimmage. He has recruited as well as anybody, not in the Pac-12, but in the country. And that's why they've had such a huge amount of success. You have to have players to win, and they have gotten players on pars with the Kentuckys or the Kansases of the world. Those are the teams that they compete against to get players. And Duke, they're in that pack of teams that go after the big-time guys.
With that turnover, there's another new player, Dylan Smith, who won't play this season after transferring from UNC Asheville, where he led that program in scoring at nearly 14 per in his debut campaign. Trier puts it down, finds Ristic. Great hands on the big men inside, the twin 7-footers.
I mean, those 2 shots that Ristic have made are not easy. I mean, they're little flip shots from not right underneath the basket. That one was from about 8. The first one was from about 12.
Pinder with the rip and the 2-hand throwdown.
I'm telling you, he's going to be valuable for this team this year. I think he gets minutes just based on energy and hustle.
The first freshman on the court for Sean Miller, if we learned anything about his program, are the ones who do what?
Defend.
Defend and rebound, and that's what Pinder hopes to do in terms of carving out a niche for himself.
The problem is, and here you see the pick and score by Pinder, the problem is their defense, principles of the pack line, is brand new to these guys, and it's not, I don't want to say it's complicated, but it's more involved for freshmen who basically relied on their athleticism and their offense as Alkins travels. So it takes a while to get. It's not that they're not trying. It just takes a while for them to understand what they're supposed to be doing defensively.
I know it's not the glamorous thing to talk about this time of year, but last year's group was not as suffocating as we've come to know this Arizona program. They're coming off back-to-back seasons, you know, top 5 in the country in defensive efficiency, and that slipped a little bit last year, didn't it?
They didn't have as much athleticism. So when you put in these principles that Sean Miller puts in, and you have athletes to do it, superior athletes. There you see Markkanen knock one down. When you put superior athletes executing that defense, that's when you're a lockdown defensive team, which we've grown accustomed to. But you're right, a little bit of a drop-off last year here at Arizona defensively.
Players like Ronde and Aaron Gordon,
yes.
And not only do you get
Nick
contested
Johnson.
shots, but you only get one of them because they're going to defensive board.
That's right. Markkanen can really shoot. I know we've already talked about it, but again, there's guys that make shots, and then there's guys that can really shoot.
Showing on that screen, Parker Jackson Cartwright to Trier, who turns the corner and comes crashing down the lane.
We saw that last year out of Trier. Athleticism not a problem for him. Anxious to see what kind of role he takes on. You know, Ryan Anderson led this team in scoring. He's gone. The natural progression would be Markkanen finishes out would be Trier steps up and becomes the leading scorer. But more importantly, not so much who averages the most points, JB, but where the ball goes at the end of the game. That's the most important thing.
Markkanen was 7 after that put back, his second of the game. From the corner, here's Alkins. Another tough rebound for Kadeem Allen on the defensive boards. Well, here's high praise from Sean Miller on Alonzo Trier. He says he's never been around another Wildcat who's put in more time in the gymnasium this summer than this man has.
Definitely an improved shooter. I think that we'll see that this season. More confident. 36%, not bad, but I think you may see that go up a little bit. I think Sean Miller on that play by Trier is going to be more mad about the C's parting defensively than he is going to be impressed with Trier's play.
Started to talk about Dylan Smith. He's at the near side wing wearing 3 in blue. He's going to provide some valuable practice depth while he fulfills his transfer year. Originally a Mobile, Alabama product. Alkins left alone, so he goes down the lane.
I have a proclamation for you, JB. I might as well just get it out of the way early. I'm done bemoaning the transfer stuff this year. It is what it is. It's here to stay.
An air ball that Smith picks up. Dylan Smith missed the 3. Ray Smith got the 2.
You don't have a comment on me not getting up on my soapbox about transfers this year?
Well, I'm at a loss for words because I fully expected the soapbox to be out early and often.
Yeah, I've given up.
Well, this program, as much as any other in the league, which, you talk about Oregon and the success that they've had, but, Talbot Denny from Lipscomb is another one who's going to miss this season with an injury. TJ McConnell, definitely a highlight, going back to Mark Lyons and Zach Peters as well. And Sean Miller says they're every bit as important to this program's success as the 5 stars and the McDonald's All-Americans. 3:05 left to go in the first half of our red-blue game. It's a 1-point contest.
For your turn.
That we have come to look forward to every season in Tucson. Adaptive Athletics having a competition before the student athletes line things up for the first time in 2016 and 17. You'd be hard-pressed to find a better basketball community in the country than they have here in Tucson.
Those guys can shoot. I was watching that game. If you leave those guys open, if you really watch that too, there's a lot of strategy that you wouldn't think would be involved in that, JB. A lot of pick plays. Fun to watch. Those guys get good.
3:05 to go before the break. Pinder puts it down. Dead on the dribble, finds Ristich. And over the top of this game's leading scorer, Lauri Markkanen for 2. Dusan Ristich now with 6.
Such great touch in the paint for Ristich. Again, with Tarczewski gone, you got to believe he's going to get more opportunities to score.
I think that experience of going up against Tarczewski and his strength and athletic ability for 2 years, and also filling in while Zeus was on the bench for 7 games with his foot injury, really benefited Dusan.
Definitely. The one thing you wonder about this Arizona team, and they've relied on it for 4 years, as Allen knocks down the mid-range. Tarczewski's numbers never jumped off the page at you, but I think his presence did, especially on the defensive end. And can Comanche come in and provide some of that rim protection that Tarczewski provided them? It's going to be more of a collective effort, but Tarczewski was that big defensive anchor in the middle for 4 years here. They're definitely going to miss it, but I think they can make up for it, not with one guy, but with a collective effort.
Joining our own Matt Muehlbach, who's in attendance today as the program's all-time career wins leader. And what a good barometer for the impact he has athletically on the court might be the fact that he's with the Oklahoma City Thunder right now, Tarczewski.
I had no doubt that he was going to make, I guess he hasn't yet, but it sounds like he's going to make the Oklahoma City Thunder because he's a great kid or a great young man, and you need that. He's not going to be a big, contributor, at least not right now for the Thunder, but he really works. He's smart. and he's physical.
2-minute mark first half here. Simmons leading the blue team with Comanche, and for the first time, here's Paulo Cruz turning the corner. He leaves it for Comanche, who has a chance for three.
Probably a play Comanche doesn't complete last year, right? He got the hit, stayed somewhat on balance, and finished it. Watch this. Gets the defender in the air and wrist stitch, took the hit, and still completed the play.
Give Cruz the assist, even though it was deflected on the way through. He's already had his highlight of the red-blue weekend, hasn't he?
A deflected assist?
No, I mean the half-court shot he hit at the end of shoot-around.
That's right.
It's funny, isn't it, watching Sean Miller go through this weekend, this night? He treats it as practice number 8. And that means going through everything, including, pregame walkthrough and pregame shoot-around as well.
I would say a little less intense, though. We've been here for some Sean Miller Arizona practices.
Than like a Territorial Cup shoot-around, you're saying? Yeah, I'll give you that one.
Yeah. But it was a practice, you're right.
Pinder misses the front end. 19 apiece inside of 2 minutes to go in the first of two 12-minute halves. Simmons being hounded by Alkins. Spins around wrist stitch, could not finish. A couple of hands on the offensive glass. Markkanen had a shot at it as well. PJC in transition, Trier at the wing. And the red team will get a new possession.
PJC looks like he's got a little extra burst, too. You see the size. You can tell he's put weight on. But that play right there before the kick out, it looked like he had a little extra pop of explosion.
Baseline take here. Nice little pocket pass to Ristich, who's hit everything inside of 10 feet. 9 points to take over the scoring lead. There's Ray Smith in transition with a sweet baseline pull.
It's funny, JB, I was thinking about this today. Everybody always wants to talk about what recruits you get and who you're bringing in and what they were rated. To me, you have to have those players, especially at a place like Arizona. But maybe more important is improvement from within. How do the players you already have, do they get better? And that's what takes you to the next step or the next level, is bringing in highly recruited guys, but then the guys that are in the program already get better over the summer. And it looks like Arizona's done that as a whole.
And Parker's a great example. I mean, don't underrate the value of having this man playing in his third season under Sean Miller's tutelage at the point guard spot.
That's right. Improvement from within is such a big thing.
And we saw what he did with TJ McConnell in a couple of seasons, now in position to start in the NBA.
Problem is everyone transfers before they can improve from within. You knew that was coming.
You already broke your promise not 5 minutes after you laid it down. We've seen Markkanen inside, and we've seen him from the perimeter, first to double figures in this red-blue contest. Parker beat the buzzer, but he could not hit the half-court shot, and we're level at 24 apiece in the 2016-17 red-blue game. Coming up, the Wildcats honor their 97 national champions.
What a crossover dribble that Dickinson used that time. Michael.
Davison missed the step. Bramlett gets the follow. Terry back the other way with his foot speed, goes the distance. Bibby, no look to Dickerson for the dunk. Great pass by Bibby. Dickerson, tough shot. Wow. Arizona has pulled off the biggest upset of this tournament. Arizona starts the celebration. They're heading to Indianapolis and the Final Four. Three-pointer. Bibby again. Bibby is red hot. For the first time ever, Arizona is playing in the national championship game.
feed on Bennett Davison. He answers and lays it in.
No problem with the press. Bramlett for two and a free throw. Other side of the court, assignment. He things under, throws it up on a runner. Good.
Lead-in shot is up, make it no good. Harris with the follow for two.
Very three-point shot. Oh, what a big one. Now drives in, dishes. Davison banks it home.
Dreams can't come true. Arizona has won the national championship.
In the span of just over 6 months and 34 games, the 1996-97 Arizona Wildcats journeyed from a relative unknown commodity to the talk of the entire nation. The ride was set in motion when Arizona headed into the NCAA tournament after losing the final 2 games of the season, only by 3 points, finishing 5th in the Pac-10 Conference and earning the number 4 seed in the Southeast region. 3 weeks and 6 games later, the U of A had put together one of the most impressive runs in the history of the NCAA men's basketball tournament. And when the smoke had cleared, the country was shocked, and the program won its very first NCAA national championship. By beating the defending champion Kentucky Wildcats on March 31st in dramatic 84-79 overtime fashion, Arizona forged its name into the record book by becoming the first team to beat 3 number 1 seeds in a single NCAA tournament, downing the 3 winningest programs in the history of college basketball, Kansas, North Carolina, and Kentucky, on the way to its one shining moment. Ladies and gentlemen, please give them one more round of applause for the celebration of their 20th anniversary, your 1997 Arizona Wildcats.
Well, Miles Simon's jersey retirement ceremony coming up later on tonight, the second half as well in this 2016-17 Arizona Red-Blue weekend.
As football fans,
they call it a players program, and the new edition of the Wildcats on display tonight in Tucson. With Don McClain, JB Long, welcome back to McHale. First thing you notice in that opening half, skilled 7-footers accounting for 19 points combined.
One doing it one way, one doing it the other way. Markkanen a little bit inside, but more outside. Ristic was impressive with his catch and shoot, catch and finish stuff in the paint. I'm telling you, JB, I like their balance offensively this year. I think they're going to be, as time goes on, a better offensive team than they were last year. And I think they have the ability, at least on paper, or as it looks right now, to be better defensively than they were last year, too.
Second 12-minute session coming up. First, a look at some of the highlights we saw in our first dozen.
Well, a little bit from everybody. You know, the score's 24-24. Both teams shot over 50%, believe it or not, which is surprising considering it's their first game of the year in front of a crowd. But you can see, and I mentioned it right off the top, how versatile this team is. A lot of guys that can do a lot of different things. And I don't think it's going to be one guy or even a couple guys. This is going to be a lot of guys coming in and impacting the game. But Markkanen stood out and Ristic stood out.
Elkins and Allen in a supporting role, along with Trier and Ray Smith as well. Both teams shooting at 50% or better from the floor in that first session.
Good to see Ray Smith back. See him there moving well. They said he hasn't lost any of his vertical leap. Just hope he stays healthy for the entire season and for the rest of his career.
You called for a close-up of Lauri Markkanen, the Finnish national teamer making his Arizona debut. Get a look at his stature in the blue huddle.
Well, again, you can't tell with that shirt on, but I mean, he has spent some time in the weight room, and he is all. They list him at 7. He's all of 7 feet.
You want to take a crack at that hometown, Don, or you want to save that for league play?
Well, I know he's from Finland.
That'll suffice.
Does he have
for
a
now.
hometown in Finland?
It has more umlauts than you can pronounce.
What's an umlaut? All right, here we go.
And here is Smith with the touch at the wing. Kadeem Allen and Jackson Cartwright matching up at the 1 for their respective programs. A perimeter pull up by Kadeem Allen. He has 8 points. One of the rare seniors on the roster.
Pretty much the only senior in terms of contributors, but I said right off the top tonight, I feel like they have a good mix of returning players and young guys. So yes, there's only one senior contributor. They have guys that have been in the program.
Allen missing from the perimeter. You mentioned the Australia trip for Comanche. Allen really exploded, and he says that he kind of benefited from the confidence he drew from playing against players like Patty Mills and Dellavedova.
Well, when you get to your senior year, and he came in from JC, but when you get to your senior year and you've been around, it almost kind of hits you that it's time for me to step up and become more of a leader and show these guys. But trips like that can kind of give you the confidence that once the season starts that, okay, I'm going to come in, play with more confidence, and lead this team.
Pinder misses the turnaround. As much as we're touting his, improved confidence with the basketball here, his role on this Arizona 2016-17 edition might be that lockdown defender that perhaps they lacked last season, that they had with Gordon and with Rondé in years prior.
But here's the beauty of that, JB. I think Kobe Simmons, if he buys in, has the toolbox to be an elite defender. Alkins has the toolbox to be an elite defender. There's some guys, but it's going to, as we talked about in the first half, it's going to take some time for them to get the experience and figure out how to do it. But it's nice that you can have multiple guys. But because Allen, to your point, JB, has been around for so long, he's probably the most likely candidate right now.
Well, as I look at the floor, here are 10 scholarship players, all highly touted, all with great accolades. But we know that eventually a rotation has to be trimmed. And you posed the question to Sean Miller during shoot-around today, what does your number look like this season?
Well, I think every coach at this point, 6, 7, 8 practices in, has hopes for playing 10 or 9. But what ends up happening is guys step up. And it's not so much that the 9th and 10th guy can't do it. It's that you don't want to take the first 8 out. And we know in years past, Sean Miller in the league has one of the smallest rotations. But I think this may be one of his deepest teams.
And perhaps most versatile as well.
And most versatile. It's going to be interesting.
And of course, some of it is beyond your control as well, as Arizona unfortunately found out last year, whether it was Zeus early in the season or Alonzo in league play.
Well, Ray Smith was a rotation player at this time last year.
After a great offensive first half, a slow start to our second 12-minute session. Ristich gets a touch with his back to the basket. Faces up on the freshman. These two are going to wage some great battles in practice and then play side by side when other programs come to town.
Ristich is just one of those guys, when he gets his hands on it and he's inside of 8 feet, it's probably going to go in. That time took too long to create the contact, but on kind of a busted play, Simmons knocks down the free throw line jumper. He was a little off balance, but still found a way, Ristich, to get the ball to go in.
Posting Comanche and wanted it again. You know what Ristich did with his summer? He boxed with the football strength and conditioning coach, Chris Allen. His body fat now under 10%.
Tell you what,
he arrived at 21%.
If I had hands like that, I wouldn't be boxing. I'll tell you that.
Rawle Alkins, a freshman from Brooklyn. Coach Miller says he comes to learn. He really has a love and appreciation for the game. Unselfish passer who makes plays at the rim. We've already seen some of that as Simmons with another long pull-up. Comanche moving on the screen.
Well, versatility is the word that comes to mind for me with Alkins. And I got to know him and Kobe Simmons during the summers with grassroots basketball. And The thing that everyone's going to love about Alkins is his personality. And you saw it tonight. First dunk of the dunk contest, gets the head coach. He's getting the crowd all fired up. A great kid, and I think going to be a very, very good player here at Arizona.
Without needing to compare him to Jaylen Brown, who played for Cal last season, you can see the physical maturity that he put on display with the assist from Sean Miller.
Has anyone ever even asked Sean Miller to be a prop for their dunk in the dunk contest here in the red-blue game? I say no. Yeah, I think the Jaylen Brown comp is sort of in the sense that Jaylen Brown had a man body like Rawle Alkins does coming in as a freshman. I think Jaylen Brown was a little more, because of his size, he's taller than Rawle Alkins, was probably a better finisher at this point in the game. But if Alkins can get that going, if he can get that going, he's going to play a lot of minutes this year.
It wasn't just that he asked Coach Miller to participate, it's that he brought Coach out and made him hold a basketball over his head for about a minute while he adjusted the height and the delivery.
What would have happened if he had kicked Sean Miller in the head when he did that?
I thought that was a rhetorical question.
Yeah, let's move on. Rawle Alkins would be running 17 for the next week.
We might have seen the death stare for the first time in this campaign.
Well, Rawle Alkins had the dunk of the night, now contributing in the red-blue game. We got a good one.
For your tire and auto.
Michigan State, Gonzaga. But the big deal you and I were talking about that you pointed out is their in-conference schedule. They don't make the mountain trip to Colorado or Utah, and they don't have the Oregons here. But I'll tell you what, JB, the more I thought about that, maybe it hurts them that they don't have the Oregons here, because that may come down. That game
RPI-wise?
Well, RPI-wise, but also conference championship-wise, regular season. You don't get the opportunity to beat them here in your building.
Well, Oregon in particular, you know that they wanted a crack at here in this building after what happened last year. And Sean Miller does say the Ducks deserve to be the favorite. We'll talk about that at Media Day next week.
Well, one looming problem, and hopefully it gets corrected, is Dylan Brooks and his foot. Hopefully he gets back soon, because if he comes back, coming off an Elite Eight season, they are a legitimate Final Four contender.
7.5 to go here in the red-blue contest, tied at 32. Trier trying to get around Allen. How about that physical matchup and finish?
For a guy his size, that is impressive. The strength to be able to push through the defender and then elevate through contact. A lot of guys that get contact like that can't get to their plant leg and get up. Trier's got the strength to do it.
Lauri Markkanen sets the on-ball screen for Simmons. 10 on the timer. In the hands of Ray Smith now. Goes to work on Alkins. Gets through the double, throws it off the glass, and Pinder saved it at the last. Trier gets a run out, and a windmill with the right.
Pinder was having none of it. But a great idea by Smith, especially in a red-blue scrimmage.
Well, I had read about the quickness and explosiveness defensively by Pinder and the fact that he might carve out a role early on in that regard. It seems like he's bought into that right away.
Hey, you want minutes. Look at all the good players you're looking at practice every day. You want minutes. You play hard and defend, and you might get some minutes. Another hypothetical, JB. What if Ray Smith attempted that in a real game?
His night might be over.
Trier, super athletic, super talented, and he was really coming on last year until he broke that hand, missed 7 games, was able to pick it back up.
Last year in his entire career, Tarczewski made a reputation for himself at the free throw line. It seems like Markkanen, a 7-footer, can continue that. He and Ristic have been sensational. Scramble in the corner. Looks like Red will keep it. One of the things that Coach Miller said about Ristic, as a junior from Serbia, is that he's only been home about a total of 4 weeks in his 3 years since committing and coming to Arizona. He's really spent his time devoted to this program and developing his game. And Trier inside and out. A dozen on the scoreboard, putting Red in front by 5.
That was a confident stroke. That was a catch and shoot with zero hesitation. Sometimes you can tell if you've been around the game long enough, when guys get the ball swung to them, there's just a hint of a hesitation. That's because they're not supremely confident. Trier, that was a confident catch and shoot.
40 made threes tied Nick Johnson for 7th most by U of A freshman last year. Shot it at a 36% clip from behind the arc. Whistle away from the basketball. Goes against Alkins, holding on to Smith. 5 freshmen, 5 sophomores, 3 juniors, a couple of seniors, only 1 active for this Arizona roster. 8 different states represented and 3 foreign countries.
You're not supposed to get to the bonus in a red-blue scrimmage, are you?
That's a good point. I didn't even know we were keeping track.
Did in the first half, too.
Smith earns a second. Think about Arizona players like Solomon Hill, Aaron Gordon, Rondé Hollis Jefferson, how versatile they were being able to play the forward positions. 3 or 4 at the end of game. Sean Miller thinks this man at the line has that option as well.
I think you could play, I think in this era of basketball, I think you could play Smith with 4 guards. I really do. As long as defensively you're not getting beat up on the glass, I think you could do it. And I think you might see it. I mean, that's the way a lot of coaches are thinking these days, is how can I put my smallest lineup on the floor for offensive purposes but not get beat defensively or on the glass.
Trier's draining threes and he's muscling up inside. Could the same be true in terms of how you play Markkanen? I mean, you could put him at the 5 and still be pretty athletic and good off the dribble.
I just said Smith because I was making the point that that's how kind of versatile he is. He can be a big guy and rebound, or he can step out and shoot. But you're right, Markkanen, same thing. You know, the advantage Ray Smith has is, even though he didn't play last year, he was around. So he knows the terminology. He knows what they're trying to do, because he was at a lot of practices, whereas Markkanen's brand new.
Alkins with the double, and he'll have a Kadeem Allen, who drove at the other end. In North Carolina, transferred there for his senior season after leading Christ the King in New York to 3 state championships. There are a lot of winners in this recruiting class as well in terms of their prep and their grassroots accomplishments.
Most top 25, top 50 kids, usually their team wins in high school. That's a fair statement.
Off the shin of Simmons, and it was turned over by Parker Jackson Cartwright.
Don't you feel like the game was a little bit cleaner in the first half than it has been this half, which is surprising? Usually all the nerves and all that makes the game a little more sloppy. The shooting percentages stayed about the same.
We'd be remiss,
turnovers,
Don, if we didn't mention that given the goals, the aspirations for this program and this team in particular, the Final Four in Phoenix. How special would that be for this group and for this fan base?
Well, it would be a home game for Arizona, or home games.
Most games west of the Mississippi are for this program,
true.
the way they travel, as we've seen at the conference tournament in Las Vegas.
That would be great, not only for Arizona, but for the conference, too. Arizona State hosting that Final Four. I'm telling you, Ristic gets his hands on it in that area, it's going in. And he got the hit. Chance for a three-point play.
His work ethic has really been touted, and not to be stereotypical, but oftentimes in basketball circles you wonder about players who are blessed with great height and athleticism, right? Would they be basketball stars if they were 6'5" instead of 7 foot? Well, Ristic, the way he works, Sean Miller says yes, he would be.
If you come to a place like Arizona, you better work. For this reason, if I'm playing in this game right now, this red-blue game, I'm looking over at who's here for this recruiting weekend, right? So if I'm not working, then whoever comes in is going to take my spot.
Their red-blue game is only 12 months away, is what you're saying.
That's right. So maybe that's the motivation, but you know, most guys are just programmed to work, and I think some guys, if they're not, they eventually get it being here in this program.
I don't think you sign with Sean Miller if you don't like to grind.
That's right.
They're all in double figures for the red team. They've got a 47-38 lead over the Arizona Blues. Tuesday, we invite you to spend a night with the Utes and get your first look at Larry Krystkowiak's Pac-12 program. Utah men's basketball hosts a night with the Utes Tuesday at 6 on Pac-12 Network. You can watch on the Pac-12 Now app as well. My partner Don McClain will be there in Salt Lake City.
Looking forward to that. Different looking group, and Utah not having Jakob Poeltl, the 9th pick in the draft by Toronto. Sure, their team will look different, but excited to see all those new players that they have.
Coming back, we mentioned the leading scorers for the red team, 3 of them in double figures. Kadeem Allen now with 13 after that made free throw. Can join Lauri Markkanen at 14 to lead his blue side. I'm intrigued to see the guard rotation. Whether or not Simmons is in there as a regular at the 1, and if so, if that means Kadeem can play substantially at the 2.
Well, and Kadeem played the majority of the minutes at point guard just because he had to last year. He didn't come in here really as a point guard. He came in as a scoring guard, a combo guard. But now you got PJC, who's improved. We've talked about tonight. Kobe Simmons, McDonald's All-American coming in here. So it is going to be interesting to see how Sean Miller handles that.
Riley Alkins takes over the scoring lead with 15. Just looking ahead as Comanche gets inside on Ristic. If you would like to watch Miles Simon and his number 34 jersey be retired here at McHale Center later tonight, we will have that coverage for you on Facebook. Go to Pac-12 Conference on Facebook. Get it all teed up after our coverage is done here on the networks. Comanche in the offensive glass following the Allen miss. Ray Smith tracks down a new possession. Comanche with his back to Ristic, turns left shoulder. Boy, all of these bigs,
yeah,
really solid from 10 to 12 feet.
I know it's a red-blue scrimmage, but guys just look different. Their bodies look different. They look more confident making plays more than they did last year.
What a behind-the-back cross by PJC. Missed the shot. Pinder on the offensive glass. He's done a lot of the dirty work for the red team. With this 5-point advantage, 2 minutes to go. Simmons spinning in transition and earns a trip to the line. Now, Kobe, the 22nd McDonald's All-American in Arizona basketball history. Here are some of the recent Cats.
Yeah, Joey, that's that whole list must be something. You know, all the All-American came in as McDonald's guys, but went out as collegiate All-Americans too.
Closing in on 70 NBA draft picks as well, most in the nation. We hinted at the ceremony for Simon, who's in attendance today with his 1997 national championship team. Here's a look back at his career.
Well, everybody remembers the 97 national championship team, as they should. And he was the most outstanding player of that Final Four.
But then he came back to be a first-team All-American a year later. 30 in the OT win over Kentucky as they took down number one after number one after number one.
That's why I say, you know, that was an unlikely run. That was a great team, but an unlikely run, as you just mentioned, beating all those number ones. Just have this feeling, JB, and I know maybe because I'm sitting here in McHale and it's October 14th, but I don't know, I have a funny feeling about this Arizona team this year. And we talked about it earlier, that the more expectations that Oregon has this year, I think has me thinking that way, that there's more pressure on Oregon this year for the first time than Arizona.
Lute looking great, introduced multiple times throughout this evening. Well, we'll find out early in the schedule, won't we? Michigan State in Hawaii, Santa Clara led by Herb Sendek now, and either Vandy or Butler in Vegas by Thanksgiving. Some good tests before the holidays for this Arizona group. Ristic back to the perimeter, and Trier tracks it down. 13 to shoot. Inside of 2 minutes to go in the 2016-17 edition of the Arizona Red-Blue game. Trier missing with the left, marking in the board. Kadeem Allen with his eyes up, spots Simmons, goes right into the chest of Ristic, and he'll shoot a pair. How about that Gonzaga matchup at Staples, by the way, against a couple of former Pac-12ers in Nigel Williams-Goss, who transferred out of UW across state, and Jordan Matthews, a grad transfer out of Cal.
That was a surprising transfer, Jordan Matthews. They knew they were losing Wallace. You figure Brown was going to the draft. The bonus is Ivan Rabb's back. Everyone thought he was leaving, but
if I'm Rabb, I'm going to miss Matthews' shooting threat on the perimeter. He's going to see doubles and triples.
I was just getting ready to say that. You got Jabari Bird, who's now senior, on one side, Matthews on the other side. That opens things up for Rabb.
Ristic in his full repertoire has been on display tonight. Working against Comanche. Boy, it's iron sharpening iron right now in the post for Arizona. Comanche, Ristic, and the newcomer Markkanen. Three left wing off the mark by Kobe Simmons. Well, stay tuned after this final minute. Don McClain heading over to speak with Sean Miller and get his thoughts. One final U of A chance as we get set for a new basketball season here on Pac-12 Network. And with an Arizona group that figures to be right on the cusp of a top 10 preseason national ranking. Alonzo Trier falling away. $16 points for Trier. And he pushes the red lead out to 53-47. Well, passed up on a lot of opportunities this summer, did Trier, to stay in Tucson and work on his game, to be around the facility, which is as good as it gets in college basketball, and the training staff as well. Well, he and Sean Miller go back to their under-19 FIBA gold medal winning days. He too has that McDonald's All-American pedigree. I mentioned Sean Miller's staff, including Joe Pasternak, Brooke Richardson, Mark Phelps, Director of Ops Ryan Reynolds. Two-time Pac-12 Coach of the Year, Sean Miller. He's averaged nearly 27 victories per campaign since arriving in the desert. A little less than 2 seconds separating game clock and shot clock here. Trier guarding Allen. Ray Smith has got his vertical all the way back up to 40 inches in the Arizona preseason test. That's right where it was this time last season. Remember, he tore that second ACL 6 days after this event last year. Second free throw coming for the redshirt freshman out of Las Vegas. Coach Miller saying he does not believe that Ray's goals have changed at all. They will monitor his fatigue, his reps early in the season, even though he's fully cleared for competition and contacts. Just want to avoid those situations where injuries often occur when players are fatigued. Final seconds of the red-blue game. Alkins gets through it. Turistic, baseline jumper. And that was about the only poor shot he unleashed in the 24 minutes we saw here tonight. Ristic with 16 points, Alkins 15. Trier also with 16 on 7 of 11 shooting to lead the red team to a 53-49 victory over the Arizona Blues. Kadeem Allen and Markkanen tied for the blue team lead with 14 points apiece. Smith had 10 as we send it over to Don with the head coach.
All right, Sean, I have to ask you first. At what point were you asked, and at what point did you agree to be involved in the dunk contest?
You know, to his credit, he asked me 2 weeks ago, 1 week ago, before the game, and then again before the game. Rowley's a great kid. We cut a deal. As long as he lets me make him play defense, I let him do that dunk.
You always talk about this game being your team's first experience in front of the home crowd, kind of get the jitters out, get used to playing in this environment. What do you think tonight? How'd they play?
You know, like always, I think college basketball has become so much about the freshmen, and we have a few very talented ones. But this game always reminds me of the value of experience. The players that have been through a season, multiple seasons, have been in this game before, they're more sure of themselves. You know, I look at Parker Jackson Cartwright out there, and I think back to where he would have been a year ago or 2 years ago in this game, and it's exciting to see his improvement. He's so much stronger and better. But him, Alonzo, same thing with Alonzo. And that's early on. I think all of us rely on those guys that have been in the fire before.
I know only 8 practices and you're a month away from the regular season, but just a couple things you think you guys need to clean up or what you're going to be talking about moving forward as you head towards the season.
We got to clean up a lot. I mean, we have a lot of new faces and new roles. You know, our first game played Michigan State in Hawaii, so I think everybody kind of knows what that one's about. But that's good. It gives us 3 weeks with the big carrot sitting out there to be the most ready that we can, and then build from there. But whoever we are in November, Don, we hope to be a lot better in December and January, and I think we have the makings of that type of team.
All right, thanks, Sean.
Thank you.
All right, JB, back to you.
And thank you, Don. And when we're done here, we invite you to catch the Miles Simon jersey retirement ceremony on Pac-12's Facebook page. It's facebook.com/Pac-12 Conference. Or check out some of the highlights on Pac-12 Sports Report tonight on Pac-12 Network. That's facebook.com/Pac-12 Conference for Miles Simon and his jersey ceremony. We will see you again early in November on the 1st and the 6th for exhibition games. But for now, let's take you to our San Francisco studio with Kate Harrison.